would IP28 ban hunting in Oregon? Yes. It would remove the legal exemption that currently protects hunting from Oregon's animal abuse statutes. All forms of licensed hunting would become criminal acts under Oregon law.
Wow.
Yeah, 90 to 180 days in jail.
Wow.
To go out and get your meal.
Well, welcome, Ryan.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is gonna be a great episode. I'm actually really excited to do this one. Austin, I've been talking about it for a while now, and excited to get this one out there for the people. So today, we welcome everybody to the Next Ridge podcast. We have Ryan, who is a fish and game officer from the state of Oregon. So welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, no, this is going to be exciting. I think a lot of people need to hear this, and especially with a bunch of people that are coming from Oregon over here to Idaho. Primarily just want to focus today on the bill that they're trying to implement that's going to be voted on this November, I believe. Before we get into that, though, I would love to just let our audience get to know who you are, and just go from there, man. So tell us a little bit about Ryan.
So
the story of Ryan.
Born and raised in Oregon, and I can't wait to leave Oregon. So, I mean, it's sad. I actually am embarrassed to say that I live in Oregon for so many reasons. It's pretty bad, but started hunting when I was 12 and continued to hunt and really enjoyed that aspect of just life. And so when I got hired by the Oregon State Police, it really was my goal to be in the fish and wildlife side of things. So Oregon and Alaska, they do everything different than any other state. You know, that's DNRs right. And fish and game or game and fish, however you say it for whatever state you're in. Alaska and Oregon, the enforcement for the fish and wildlife side of things is done by the state police or the state troopers.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Wow.
So
wearing a lot of hats.
Yeah. So how does that work with, you obviously go to the academy and all that. Do you have to apply for that position, or is that like a rotation essentially to do fish and game? Yeah. So you go through the standard academy. Well, it's different now, right? When I got hired on, I started as a cadet at 18. So that was 33 years ago. Okay. So quite a while ago. And then I got hired on full time, went through the academy. That academy was put on by the state police. And now everyone goes through the DPSST, so the standards and training, the central training that everyone goes through. Everyone goes through that same process, right? We just do a little bit extra at the beginning, some extra training, OSP specific, and then extra training at the end, OSP specific training. And then once you're assigned, I mean, you're told where you're going to go. You have some options, right? You have 3 or 5 different, hey, I'd like to go to these places, and maybe you do, maybe you don't, and then you go there. Oftentimes you're assigned to patrol first. Every now and then, if we really have some critical vacancies in fish and wildlife, you're assigned straight out of the academy to go into fish and wildlife. And when you get hired, you're going here, you're going to be in this division, which is great, right? You can plan for it. But I think in my experience, what I've seen, that guys do best when they go into patrol first, right? Sure, absolutely.
Get out there and you work the street for 5 to 7 years. And then at that point you're like, all right, I'm ready to do something a little bit different. I'm ready to go into fish and wildlife and do that.
Try to get your mic there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I've never done a podcast before.
That's all right. You're doing great already.
But yeah, so you really want that experience. You want to get out there. You want to stop a lot of cars and meet a lot of bad people, right?
Yeah.
And know how to talk. Because when you get out into the fish and wildlife side of things, you've got to be able to use your words to be able to de-escalate, because you're a long ways away from everyone.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Absolutely. Your backup and everything, especially where I'm at, I'm in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
My nearest backup, oftentimes, if the county deputy isn't on, is over an hour away.
Yeah, dude.
And so you got to know.
Yeah, we're familiar with that. When we worked in Douglas County as deputies, it was most nights it was 2 to 3 deputies for a what was the square miles?
It's like 1,800 square
1,800
feet.
square
No,
miles.
miles.
Square
Square
feet,
feet
yeah.
is
Yeah.
really small.
You must be in the real estate world.
Sorry about that.
So yeah, I mean, totally. You know, we both started at a city agency, got our feet wet there, interacted with a lot of people, and then to go to a county where it was more rural, and you've got, well, there's no state patrol that worked after, I don't know, 9 p.m.
Yeah. Not earlier.
Yeah, and that's a consistent problem in
Yeah.
a smaller area because they staff it with less people.
Yeah. And so, our backup was, they could be all the way down in Hawthorne, and you're up in the, by Brule, Wisconsin, and they're an hour away.
Okay, yeah, I was wondering
Yeah.
what state it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
In
Okay.
Wisconsin.
Northern
yeah.
Wisconsin.
Northern Wisconsin.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, absolutely on point. Like, you got to know how to talk to people, de-escalate situations, and relate to people, and, not get confrontational when it doesn't need to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And in reality, a lot of what we do anymore is that direction anyways, right? You're non-confrontational unless you need to be, right? You don't need to up that ante. You want to bring that ante down, right? And bring the people down. Not bring the people down, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The emotions.
Bring the emotions down, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And
The power of a cigarette.
yeah,
That's true, man.
Yeah,
That's super true, man.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So there was a county deputy, and he smoked, right? And I don't smoke, so it's harder for me to understand. But he always had a pack of cigarettes in his pocket for
Same.
just that dude that he would come across. He's like, hey, here you go. Here, I'll light it for you.
Yep.
Just relax, and it would just chill him out.
Instant.
It is. It's
Yeah.
a real thing.
So I got a funny story on
I'll
that.
tell him that one.
Well, actually, I don't know which one you're talking about,
I think
but
of the stack one.
you'll have to tell that one.
That's all
This
right.
is just like a comedy skit I had just watched. It was hilarious, and he was talking about the power of a cigarette, and like these newer generations with the vape pens and like all these, like it's not the same as a cigarette. A cigarette makes you contemplate your decisions because it takes a while. You have to smoke the whole thing, whereas like a vape pen, it's just like instant, and then you're just puffing on it all the time. Cigarette's more deliberate, and the power of those things was just unreal.
Yeah, no, I
Like
get it,
someone's
man.
just fired up, and you're like, "Hey, man, do you need a smoke? Yeah, I don't have any. I got you."
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And immediately you're just like right there with them. They're your friend. Now you can work with them. Yeah, but it was really funny. He was talking about that. I'm like, well, that's accurate.
It's very accurate. I still think of Stack's video. I think you're the one that took the video of it. This is when I was working out in Kootenai County and now back in Idaho. But in Wisconsin, our buddy Stack, I think it was a DUI, and it was an old guy, and he was bringing him to jail. and the video, I think it's you recording or J-Mac.
I think it was J-Mac.
Yeah, so Stack's in his pickup truck, and the dude that got the DUI is in the back seat. Stack's got the window down for the dude with the DUI, and the dude's this old dude smoking a dart, just smoking a dart, going to jail and
In
all
custody, he's like, yeah. That was awesome.
Oh man,
Well, when I first started, we didn't have cages in our trucks, so literally they sat next to you.
Oh wow.
no way!
Yeah,
Wow,
yeah.
what
You
vehicle
had to just pickups,
Wow.
and they sat next to you, and you had to really just understand, hey,
Sure.
don't get froggy.
Definitely.
I'm operating this vehicle. Don't get froggy.
Oh my gosh.
That's
So
awesome.
pretty crazy, but yeah. But having said that, that's my background, but nothing that I'm going to talk about today is going to be in any way the official word of my employer.
Sure.
I'm talking for myself, and oftentimes what I'm going to be talking about, and I'm going to reference some things specifically from associations that I'm a part of. Cool. Oregon Hunters Association, Oregon Trappers Association. I'm used to be part of Mule Deer, Rocky Mountain Elk, all those things. These are all organizations that are doing what they can to fight, this initiative petition.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think sometimes when we say they and this and that, we got to really kind of focus in on who it is we're talking about.
Yeah.
And we're talking about in this particular instance. So, Oregon's one of those states that allows its citizens, if they have an idea and they get a hold of their legislator, whoever that may be, they say, hey, can you bring this up? We'd like this to be law, right? We want ATVs to operate on the highways, right? Can't do that in Oregon. You can do that here in Idaho, right?
you can.
So that'd be one of those things you'd bring up with your legislator and say, hey, we'd like this to happen. and the legislator goes and they discuss it with the other legislators, and it may come up, it may not, right? If it doesn't, then you have the opportunity as a citizen to gather enough signatures to put something on the ballot so that everyone gets to vote on it. Now, this can be good and this can be awkward, right?
Yeah.
It can be bad. I mean, really, there's various ways depending on how you look at life. And so in this instance, we're talking about a petition, initiative petition that is attempting to gather enough signatures, and they're almost there, right?
Really?
So they had to have 117,000 signatures, and then you have to go through and you have to validate them all that they're actual voters. They've turned in over 100,000 as of February, and they have till July.
Wow.
To get to 117,000. So when we talk about they in this instance, this is a group of people who believe in what we're going to talk about. They believe it's important.
Sure.
It's not necessarily the legislator. It's not necessarily the majority of citizens in the state. It's a group who is attempting to force their beliefs upon someone else.
Yeah. Right. But and so this bill is called the Peace Act.
Peace Act.
Peace Act.
What does it stand for?
I have to look it up to remember because
didn't write
it's
it down.
it's because it's so peaceful to me, and it in no way makes my blood boil at all.
The Peace Act
The
of
Peace Act.
Oregon.
Yeah. So I apologize because I do
don't
need
know.
to
You're good,
reference.
man.
That's one of the things that I
Acronyms.
do. I don't like to someone asked me a question at work and they're like, "Hey, can you give me the answer?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'll get back to you because I
Yeah.
want to look it up. I want to research. I want to make sure you have the best answer possible." So they're like, "I want the answer right now." I'm like, "No, I could just blurt something out and be wrong, and then I look dumb. I don't like doing that."
I'm guessing the P is for people.
People, yes,
Yeah.
people
Nice.
That's
For-
I'm on a good start.
for elimination.
Oh,
That's usually not a good start either.
No.
Of animal cruelty exemptions.
Yes.
So as we dig into this act, it'll make sense what those animal cruelty exemptions are.
yeah. I'm curious.
Yeah. So this is Initiative Petition 28. Just as a little bit of a history for this, and I'm going to put my glasses on here and I'm pulling this information from the Oregon Hunters Association, which reminds me, I do need to renew my membership. So at the end of the month, I am due. But this affects hunters and anglers and anyone in Oregon who participates economically on the following activities would face criminal liability, right? So we're not just talking like, hey, don't do this, it's taboo, whatever. We're going to penalize you criminally if you do this. So 330,000 plus licensed hunters.
Wow.
500,000 plus licensed anglers, 37,000 farms and ranches,
Jeez, man.
Holy cow.
employing over 80,000 workers, wildlife biologists, trappers, pest control operators.
Oh, yeah. Think
yeah.
about that. Yeah.
Because
pests,
it's all the way down to
mice.
You can't trap
Yeah.
a mouse.
Right.
Oregon's 9 federally recognized tribes and treaty hunting and fishing rights, veterinarians, and animal research institutions. So it's all those people that this is going to affect.
And my question is, who's going to enforce this? If I doubt it would be passed this year, but I know their whole thing is they're trying to. I mean, yeah, maybe you never know.
Yeah,
you never
it's
know.
hard to say.
But I mean, if they continue to do this year after year after year, and the younger generation's not doing this or getting into it, maybe they will have the numbers one day. But who would enforce this? Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And that's going to be, it's going to come back to the Fish and Wildlife Enforcement
Yeah.
entity. And who is going to be in those positions? Because
Right.
it isn't going to be me.
No.
Right. It's not going to be anyone who thinks like me or
Right.
wants to participate in these activities like me, who believes that it is not cruel what we are doing, feeding our own families.
Right.
So, yeah, who's
I-
going to enforce it? Which
Right.
is
And I'd say most of y'all believe the same way that you do, correct?
correct.
Yeah.
I would say so. Yeah.
Yeah.
you know, I mean, even if you're not a sportsman and you like to eat meat, that's going to affect you as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, everything's gonna be brought in.
Everything you like, cattle farms, chicken farms, any kind of farming is going to be ex-nate.
Yeah.
You can't-
Yeah. So what are you going to do? Can you imagine the economic impact of all of your ranches, anything that grows an animal, raises an animal, is now going to be illegal,
Yeah.
right? Because you can't kill it. In fact, if it's injured under this act, you can't put it down and properly euthanize it to end its suffering.
Wow.
You,
So
you have to coddle it in its suffering and watch it suffer.
oh, that's horrific. I just think about nature's absolutely hardcore when it comes to stuff like that, or traffic, right? I mean, like how many times have we all probably had to go dispatch a deer because it was hit by a car. So now you're just telling me I got to sit here and watch it. That's horrible. And to talk even on like the veterinary side of things. So now you've got an animal or a pet that is suffering, and you can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
Like, you just have
Yeah,
to
you're not
sit
gonna be
there
able
and let nature take its course, is what they think is the right option.
Absolutely, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And so we'll dig into a couple of these things, but basically what it does, this initiative petition takes away, under law, you have like animal abuse statutes, right? You have animal cruelty statutes, and then under that you have exemptions to that. Hunting, fishing, you have, no, I'm blanking on it, so I'm just going to pull it up.
Yeah, that would affect crabbing's huge over there, right? In Oregon, crabbing.
Yeah, on the
Yeah.
coast. Yeah,
Yeah, you wouldn't be able to
absolutely.
do
Yeah.
that either.
No fishing.
Yeah.
Everything's done.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, you couldn't do anything. And oysters, isn't that a big thing too? Going on clamming or no clamming?
I don't know about
Clamming's a big
oysters.
one.
Yeah,
In
clamming.
Yeah.
Yeah, clamming's like huge. Like our guys do the clamming enforcement because you can only have so many.
Yeah.
That's why I wouldn't work on the coast, because you have to know all your clams.
All
and
your
I don't.
Clam identification course.
Wait, are
Yeah.
there different types of clams?
There are.
Wow.
And like
They're all
literally, yeah, there's this shellfish time, and you have to spend so much time. Like, you can only have 5 of these, or I don't even know what the numbers are, but it's not what I want to do. It's not what I want to spend my time with. That's why I live in Eastern Oregon. I don't live on the coast. So this initiative petition goes all the way back to 2020.
Oh, wow.
So they started this process back then. So we're now 6 years down the road, and if it doesn't pass this time, in 2 years, 4 years, this is going to come back, and they're going to have more people. So they literally have been failing to qualify for the ballot, but they're getting closer and closer each time they come at this. And so 117,173 people, valid signatures is the threshold that they need to meet to get it onto the fall ballot. There over 100,000 signatures in February were turned in.
Wow.
Of course, they got to verify those. So, common questions. Would IP28 ban hunting in Oregon? Yes. It would remove the legal exemption that currently protects hunting from Oregon's animal abuse statutes. All forms of licensed hunting would become criminal acts under Oregon law.
Wow.
Yeah, 90 to 180 days in jail
Wow.
to go out and get your meal,
That's
to catch
insane.
a fish.
And I mean that probably, and that, like we talked about earlier, it trickles all the way down to, you've got rodents in your house,
Yes.
and the same penalty applies.
The same. Yeah.
Wow. You got a mouse in your cupboard, and you got to figure it out.
Yeah. And I was watching that
Let
video.
them live there.
I was watching that this video on it, and the interviewer was asking the guy, one of the main guys that's responsible for this act. He's like, "How are you going to control the population?" And I'm pretty sure the guy interviewing is pro hunter, because that's a big thing. Obviously, in conservation, what are we doing, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're maintaining populations.
Yeah.
of all species.
Yep.
Yep.
So you have a set number of animals that are out there in the environment. So many of them are going to die from disease, from vehicle strikes, just life, right? And so you have only a set amount that can live in that environment. So using small numbers, if 100 can live in that environment for that area, you want to keep that number near 100. If you have 200 animals on the population because you can't kill any, you now have starvation and death for 100 animals.
Yeah.
And so that's where hunting and and other forms of population control reduce those numbers to the amount where the animal can live in that environment.
It's sustainable. That's kind of like the wild horses down in New Mexico or Arizona, like
Nevada, everywhere.
Yeah,
Oregon.
They have to trap these horses, and then BLM actually auctions them off, and you can buy wild Mustangs from them. But they have to do that because otherwise there's no control over those herds, and there's not enough environment for them all to live free. I mean, as much as I know there's many people out there that would rather just see them out there.
Yeah.
But now you're talking about suffering. Now these, mom can't provide for the foal, so she dies, and now this foal has no source of food, and then that foal dies, and it's tragic. It's nature, but as humans, we have a right to be stewards to the land and the animals and help as much as we can, and that's where hunting comes in. And if you don't have a control over a population, like you said, now you're more vehicle strikes. Your insurance is going to go up because now there's no regulation of these animals, so there's going to be more.
Oh, absolutely.
The implications that come from something like this passing is just, I think, far outweighs the kind of their thoughts on humane. And I think a lot of it too is people think of hunters, or people who don't agree with hunting look at hunters and think we're mean and we're cruel and we don't care about the animals. Well, you know what? 1%. You probably have a percentage of people out there, and I'm sure you've dealt with them on your job, where they don't care. They're just out there for sport. They just want to kill something. They just want to, who knows, right? I think the majority of people that hunt and are outdoorsmen care deeply about the animals that we pursue to feed our families, and we want ethical, humane harvests.
Quick, clean kill.
Yeah,
that's what we're after. We're not looking to wound something.
No.
And I've taught hunter education for about 15 years now, and that's what we instill in our students. Right? Is that quick, clean kill? We're not looking to make this thing suffer. We want the good shot. We wait until that branch is out of the way. Right? It steps out from behind the tree or the bush or whatever, because that little thing can deflect that bullet or that arrow,
For sure.
And that's what we're looking for. And so we're not here to make these things suffer, right? We're here to feed our families because we choose to eat a very natural product that's good for us.
Yeah.
Right? It's not processed in some factory somewhere. Obviously not in Oregon if this passes, because all of that's going away, that entire industry. And and then you talk about that industry in itself. And you guys are in the real estate world. What is that going to do to real estate values of these ranches that are now useless?
Oh, plummet. I mean,
Right?
they'd lose everything because
Everything.
they can't stay in business anymore. And the argument that the people with this bill have against that, it's like, okay, well, what happens to these? And I know one of the main guys pushing behind it had said in an interview, studies on chicken farms show that you can convert those barns into growing mushrooms, and they do very well. And you're like, okay, so you're telling me that you're just going to get rid of chicken and start feeding everybody? You're going to convert everybody in the state of Oregon to be a vegetarian?
That's what they want.
And here's what a lot of this comes down to, besides all the economic effects and everything, is this small group of people who believe that this should happen. You're going to force this upon the majority of the state, the majority of Oregonians, because of this belief that everyone should eat a certain way.
why don't we reverse that? And if you choose to live your life that way, then you just eat that way, right?
Yeah.
And you live your life that way and keep it to yourself, right? The rest of us, let us do what we are doing. That's shown through history and time that it is not cruel and that it is a way of life.
Yeah.
But then you get people, well, we're just going to change the way of life. Okay. You change your way of life.
Yeah.
Don't come into my house and change my way of life, right? And so it's just that attitude of, I'm going to force this upon you because I think it's better.
Yeah. They're miserable. They're miserable fucks, I'm going to say right there, dude. That's exactly what they are. Seriously.
Well,
and they got to spread that misery to everyone else.
Yep.
Yeah. Right?
Exactly. We all saw it in 2020.
Oh, yeah.
All the mask stuff and all that. Who are the most miserable people to be around? Usually them.
the ones wearing masks,
Well, them.
the ones still wearing masks.
Well, that's ones, yes. In their car by themselves wearing masks.
Yes. And you know, the scary thing is that it's got traction.
Yes.
That, you know,
Every time this new iteration, a new initiative petition, a new number and all that, every time it comes around, it's more traction. And my thought is, who's signing up for this?
Uh-huh.
Right.
What are they telling them?
Yeah.
And what's going on in their head? And I don't know, maybe we need to outreach to those people and be like, hey, you know, you have choice.
yeah.
Why are we forcing non-choice upon people?
Right.
We should be opening this up to choice, not forcing a non-choice.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, and then you come back into the agriculture side of things, right? And so, you know, it's one thing you want to come after hunting. People have been doing that for forever, right? PETA. You know, but now you're talking about people who have had generational ranches and farming.
Oh, well,
that's-
but that's generational wealth. We can't have that either.
yeah,
that's
right.
true.
Exactly.
I mean, you can't. I don't know. That's a whole different topic.
yeah.
There's two things that you guys just touched on. Maybe they clicked. So cruelty, right? That's part of the thing. Cruelty. So is essentially milking a goat is that cruelty? Is that, you know, if you want to do like goat milk, and what is the term cruelty? Like, what does that show, right?
I think
What's the definition of it? That's
from what I understand, it's, you know, the harvesting or killing of
Just
animals.
killing it.
Yeah.
So I think you could probably keep, you know, dairy farms.
You can still do dairy
'cause
farms
they're not,
and all that.
because they're not killing them.
So here's the weird part about this. All right. So and I'll get to that, but I want to read the actual definition. But this removes exemptions, right? This is removing these exemptions to say it's okay to do normal farming practices, etc., and not limited to. So hunting and fishing and all that is included in that. They take every reference to domestic animal and they remove domestic. So this is every animal. So when we go through this and we talk about this, think about a wild animal and now think about what you have to provide for this wild animal. Okay. So adequate shelter does not include crawl spaces under buildings or parts of buildings. The inside of a vehicle, if the animal, wild animal, raccoon, you know, if it's in your vehicle, is kept in a vehicle in a manner or for a length of time that is likely to be detrimental to the animal's health or safety. So if you have a squirrel that's living in there, you got to provide it with some air conditioning underneath the hood.
I guess that makes sense.
John, you had some creatures living in your tundra.
Yeah, thank you, Montana.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we go through this. It completely removes this entire section, which says good animal husbandry includes but is not limited to the dehorning of animals, the docking of sheep, horse, swine, castration or neutering of livestock according to accepted practices of veterinary medicine or animal husbandry. So basically takes out all that science behind what's done and throws science out the window. It's no longer okay. Let's see. We get down here. Open and adequate access to potable water in sufficient quantity to satisfy the animal's needs. So we're now going to have to provide that to all of our wild animals as well.
No.
because it got rid of the word domestic anywhere out of this.
Yeah.
So now we're going to have to provide shelter, which, by the way, if you read through here, is not a dirt floor. So wild animals should not be on dirt floors.
Oh, so if you got horses,
Yeah. Give them
They can't be on dirt. Yeah, they have
turf, baby.
Yep, you have to keep them warm
Sod.
wow.
because their natural body's fur is not enough. Yeah. So you go down this rabbit hole, right? And this rabbit hole just keeps spiraling all the way down.
If you really break it down, there's
What is this going to cost your taxpayers
for sure, definitely.
to provide all this for your animals?
Yeah.
Because you're going to lose all of the funding that you get from hunters and anglers who purchase tags and out-of-state hunters that come there and buy tags.
We care the most about all wildlife.
Yes.
Right.
We do.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a separate fund, and this fund is going to be funded by the people who are now getting charged for trapping mice. And in my case, I have rock chucks in my ceiling, like above my bed, and I have like ground squirrels and rodents and all kinds of stuff. Yeah, you can't kill that stuff. You can't remove it from your house, even though that stuff can bring in hantavirus and especially off the fleas of ground squirrels.
Sure.
Don't worry about that.
Well, those ground squirrels will burrow underneath your structures and cause settling or cause structural damage to your home or your barn or your facilities or whatever.
Or if you have a 130-year-old house like I'm in, and there's no insulation in the walls or sill plates or anything like that, they just crawl up through the walls, and you hear them crawling at night, and they dance and have parties above your head at night. Yeah. So, that's the part of living in an old house, I guess.
I love it.
So you can't do any of these things. So what we're talking about is physical injury, back to what it is that we can't do. Physical trauma, impairment of physical condition, or substantial pain. And that, of course, that substantial pain is where you get to actually killing an animal, right? Mm-hmm. Physical trauma means fractures, cuts, punctures, bruises, burns, or other wounds. So all your trapping is out, all of your, even if it's in a cage, there's parts in here where you can't have an animal in a cage, including a bird, if it has a wire bottom.
Oh, you just got to let your pet birds just
hang out.
Well, you need to give them a flat surface because that's what birds enjoy, is a flat surface that they can't get their feet around, right? No. None of this makes sense.
wow.
So it takes away cruelly causing the death of an animal, and it just states causes the death of an animal. So if you cause the death of an animal, you are in violation. But hey, but there is an upside to this, right? Okay, they made this palatable for everybody because they, being the small group that's trying to impose their will upon everyone, it's not going to be felonies anymore. They're just going to be misdemeanors.
Oh, great.
Yeah, so that's fine. You're no longer going to be preventing from having a firearm or going to prison necessarily until you have 5 or 6 of these and you're on the matrix, and it just keeps going up, right?
Wow.
That matrix of when you have so many crimes and when you're charged with another one, it keeps getting worse and worse, and you get to spend more time in prison. Yeah. But they made it palatable by reducing from Class A misdemeanors to Class B, from Class C felonies to Class A misdemeanors, stuff like that. Yeah. So it's palatable. And not only that, but since you're going to be in trouble after you kill that mouse and you pay this fine, it goes into this fund. But that fund has a really good purpose, right? That fund is going to create public feeding centers where they're going to provide you with food.
Wow. Oh, vegetarian food, I assume.
Well, I mean, they can cart it in, they can truck it in from other states.
Suppose, you'd be relying on
more control
importing all of your animal products.
Govern me harder, Daddy. That's what I want to hear.
We would so not only have we created this. When I was a kid, right, we were on food stamps, and it sucked. I mean, that's just the way it was, though, right? We didn't have a lot of money, and so we went down and we got cheese and we got milk because we needed it as a large family. There was 4 of us kids. So
It's a large family.
it was enough that my parents weren't making enough money to be able to feed us, right? As well as they wanted to. So we were on food stamps, and that was great. Is that where you want to be your entire life? Now, there are some people that want to be there.
This is true.
I mean, we've dealt with them on the job.
Yeah.
There are people that want to live in that condition, but then the rest of us don't. We want to lift ourselves out of that poverty, and we want to be able to feed ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And live our own lives and determine our own lives.
Right. Not be hand-fed everything.
Yes.
And just suck off the teat, which is sad that that's the society that we live in.
A lot of people, yeah.
A lot of people just want handouts and don't want to work. And this it pedals right to those folks, because as long as they're still getting what they need.
They're signing a petition.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Yeah,
well
because
said.
there's going to be more food. I mean, why wouldn't you?
Right.
So this is going to fund these food centers, whether private or public. And of course, if they're private, nonprofits never make money.
Right.
Right. Yeah. They're not making any money there. The CEOs aren't like millionaires.
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
This
right,
is not opening. Oh, there's a 5 or 7 board committee that if your job doesn't allow you to get away, like pay you to come and be part of this volunteer committee to oversee this whole project, we'll pay you. There's no money behind any of this, right?
You're right. Yeah.
I mean, what do we always say? Follow the money, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Well, for example, looking at some of these properties, right? I'm always digging into these properties when we're up here, right? Because we want to live up here, right? So I'm digging into these properties. I'm looking, okay, Onyx. Who's the owner? All right, it's this LLC. So then I go to Idaho LLC, business registry. I look up who that is. I find out who the principal owners are and all that stuff. And I start looking up their names. And I'm like, interesting. All right, this is some trust fund out of Texas, right? Or some trust fund. And it's just like you follow the money, right?
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh, okay. Maybe I don't want to give them money.
I think that's funny. That's awesome.
I do. I just, I follow that. If it's just average Joe trying to sell his place, that's great. But if it's some trust fund, we were looking at one last night. It came back to some like $9 million a year budget that they had, and they'd given away. It was, it's obviously some long-term wealth, right? Someone who's never had a job except managing money and giving it away. And I'm just like, we don't want any part of that. You just subdivided a 30-acre parcel into 4 parcels, and now you're trying to make the most out of it.
Sure.
It's like, just to make more money. And
right. Yeah. Man, I want to touch back on that whole population control, though, because we forgot to talk about it.
Gosh.
From us. I don't know if you want to talk about it.
Because obviously they have this, they're pushing us out. So they got to have solutions and what their options are going to be for maintaining population control. And one of them was birth control for animals.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I just couldn't believe that that came out of their
That's your
mouth.
solution.
I'm like, so you're telling me you're going to try to manage herds of elk with birth control? So now you're talking about
feeding the elk,
feeding them. Yep. And
something that has something in it,
some kind of contraceptive in it. So now you're talking about, okay, what's that going to cost? I can't imagine that's cheap, because you're going to have to use helicopters or airplanes to airdrop this stuff in somewhere remotely in the backcountry. Yeah. So these elk can eat it. And then, I mean, again, you're still, I couldn't wrap my head around it. I'm like, and then there non-lethal ways of sterilizing and stuff. And you're like,
quit getting involved in God's creation. Quit trying to always do stuff, man. It's disgusting. It's just evil, man.
I have a hard time, trying to see the other side of this and what they're trying to do. I am all for, people not being cruel to animals. Absolutely. That's something I can definitely agree with.
Why we have laws on the books.
Exactly. But when you try to, they call it like emotional politics, right? They're just trying to, or emotional based conservation. It never works. there's been a system for a long time on conservation and how we do it. And when you bring emotions into that, that's when it all goes to heck. Same with like Colorado and the wolves, and just Colorado in general, and their emotional decision making on their hunting strategies. Same with Washington's the same way. You know, they got rid of spring bear hunting over there. And you're like,
and trapping, you know, and talk about two places I would never want to live: Colorado and Washington.
Yeah,
or even go to hunt. Honestly, I don't want to give them money, right?
Yeah,
that's true.
Because they bring people, and that's the thing is you have these people who are making these conservation decisions that don't know anything about conservation, or have never hunted, or never done any of that, but somehow they get into office without any credentials on these matters, and they make decisions that affect hundreds of thousands of people.
Well, and then in the Colorado instance, you have a volunteer board, right, that goes against what their biologists, these are the folks who are paid to study and understand the animals that they're in charge of, right? They're trying to do the best for their state and the animals that are within it to continue to manage that population. And then you provide that recommendation to your volunteer board, who is the governing board, saying, hey, yay or nay, we're going to do this or not do this. And they completely ignore them and go the other direction.
Yeah.
Then why do we have all these people out here doing all this hard work? We're paying them a lot of money to do this hard work to make sure that we have sustainable populations. And you're going to be like, yeah, my aunt told me that these wolves are really cute, so we need to bring them in.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Right. Yeah.
Now, I have a question on this so when it relates to fishing, does that hit on just catch and release? Like, you're not even supposed to...
You're harassing me at that point.
Right.
Yeah,
like,
that's
I
cruel.
would think.
I guess I don't know, but you know, you always have that incidental kill, so it could be. Do you want to be that guy who is just like, okay, maybe I overbagged because it's a fish and catch and release only, but it accidentally died. Well, now I committed a crime.
Right. Yeah. So now,
Right.
I mean, even fly fishermen, right? Like, most fly fishermen, it's all catch and release for the most part. But you still have those instances where, either that fish inhaled your fly and now it's back in the gills and you're trying to get it out of its gills, and then you end up...
I would have a hard time thinking that any hunter or fisherman or trapper or really anyone who's ever in the woods and has seen life, like animal cruelty, like animal on animal cruelty, like they're mean to each other, right?
Man.
Yeah.
They have apex predators, and if they've ever been out there and they've ever seen that or participated in any of this, I have a hard time ever thinking, or honestly, even eating a nice steak.
Yeah.
How would you ever vote for this?
Yeah.
How would you ever sign up for this petition and say, yeah, I think this is good?
Yeah. Right.
I think on the topic of bear hunting, right? Like a lot of people don't understand that bears have some of the biggest impact on deer and elk populations comparatively to wolves. I mean, and correct me if I'm wrong here. Wolves tend to target older, mature bulls late in the season and younger calves when they can, when the snow is deep, or in calving season. I'm sure the wolves will get them, but bears will, during calving season, will smell when a cow has dropped a calf. They can smell the freshly born calf, and they will go eat that calf right in front of its mother without a care in the world. They're like, snack time.
Yeah.
And
I always
meal.
have to say that I have to stay in my wheelhouse, and it's not in my wheelhouse. I don't know the science or the facts behind it, the statistics. It seems right.
Yeah.
But I don't know that for when I always come back to it, I always remind people I'm not a biologist. So I arrest people when they violate the law and they poach. But other than that, it gets out into speculation land for me. But I have seen, where coyotes are out there. They're always chasing that afterbirth, and right now we're in calving season, right? Calves have been dropping all around us on the ranches around us for months now. And we have a huge coyote problem, but you're not going to be able to control that coyote problem.
No. Right.
Yeah. You buy this. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's $100,000 house that you buy. It's special to you, or if it's a $5 million mansion, right? Mm-hmm. It's special to you and it's yours. And you have now some rodents that have taken over a portion of it, and you're going to call a wildlife control operator or someone to come out and take care of that. Now you're not going to be able to. And you're just going to have to eat it.
Yeah.
Eat it. Your house is going to be undermined, and you are going to bear that financial responsibility because a small group of people has said, we know better than you, and we're going to force our will upon you.
Yeah. Well, and I think too many people try to humanize animals too much. Animals are animals. I mean, you look at it, like, they just don't act like these Disney creatures that you see in the movies. Like, everybody looks at these Disney movies and they humanize animals so much that that's not how they operate. They don't have emotions like we do.
No.
Like when that, elk cow drops a calf and a bear comes by and eats that thing in front of her, she doesn't have, I'm speculation here, I'm pretty sure she probably doesn't have PTSD from that. She's going to go
make another one
and
she's going to protect it.
Yeah,
she
absolutely.
Can do it. She does have that connection.
Yes.
And want to protect it. But when it's done,
yeah, I think,
going to move on.
Right. As animals do. It's part of how they've lived for thousands of years, right? Things happen, they move on. Even the injuries you see when you get a deer that's injured. And to us, we're like, oh, that poor thing is suffering. And to that deer, it's just adapted to whatever injury it has, and it just continues on its life.
It's like our dogs, man.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Look how tough they are, right?
Yeah.
They got to lose a leg, and they just hop around on 2 legs, and they're happy as can be. You
Yeah.
know?
They're like,
yeah, all right.
Yeah.
Next.
I think, and that's where this comes into play, is people give that humanization to animals too much. That they think that they have these kind of feelings that, they want to be coddled and left to roam. Because your dog wants to cuddle, right? But that's its instinct. It's a pack animal. Mm-hmm. It enjoys that comfort of being around you, and you're part of that pack at that point.
Yeah.
But like any other animals, like, they're just different.
You sparked something there. I want to say that there's a part of this that basically you can kill an animal, right? If it is going to kill you, right? And you have to protect yourself, or you have to protect another person from that animal killing that other person. But I also believe that there was like some animal-on-animal action too, and that was part of this. And I'd probably have to reread this, but you basically can protect another animal from another animal being killed.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, maybe you can. Maybe that's your carve out, right?
Yeah, right.
I'd have to reread it just to make sure I get that verbiage right. But maybe that's okay. Well, I'm just here to protect that baby calf there from that coyote, because that coyote's looking at it off like it's lunch, and I need to protect it.
That deer was about to step on a mouse.
That's true.
A vole. There's a lot more voles out there.
Maybe the vole was going to hurt the deer with the hole, and the deer is about to step in, so you got to kill the vole or kill the deer. No, that wouldn't make sense. Actually, no.
Well, you're just
killed them both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Now I'm in trouble. Now I'm going to jail.
Maybe we need to just add to this and protect plants as well.
That's so that's where I want to go with that. This is where I always tell a vegan, I'm like, here, all right.
Is that a person?
Vegan? A vegan.
Is that a name?
I'm going to tell a vegan, yeah. I'm like, all right, so you're against all meat and all that stuff. I'm like, I'm going to drop you off in the middle of the woods and survive. Just survive. Mm-hmm. What do you ultimately going to end up doing? More likely, your instincts are going to come in. I'm like, I'm going to kill that fucking bird.
Yeah.
I'm eating that
You're going to
fish.
get hungry enough that you're going to eat anything.
And it's going to come to meat.
Well, you see it on that show Alone.
Or
You're going to get so hungry you're going to eat anything. You're going to eat the wrong
thing for sure.
vegetable.
That's true. Yeah.
And you're going to either go on a trip
Yeah.
or you're going to go on the ultimate trip.
Yeah.
You're right.
Tripping the ultimate
Gone
That's
from
good.
this world.
Yeah. I know. No.
You know.
Well, that on the alone, there'll be contestants that come on there that are vegetarian and they're herbologists and they know plants, and there's been a few that have made it pretty far, but you can't sustain
Wintertime.
that. Yeah,
What about winter?
Exactly, to be able to sustain that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And there's nothing wrong with being a vegetarian or vegan or anything
No,
like
we're not
that,
saying
right?
that.
No,
Yeah.
no, absolutely. If that's your thing, man, it's your
Do it.
thing.
Yeah.
Do it, but don't force it on everyone else. And that's
Right.
what this comes down to. This whole initiative petition is forcing a few, and it really is a few people's will upon everyone.
Right.
You know, if we get to that point in society where we're saying, hey, you know what, we all need to eat vegetables and that's it. You know, as a society, we're all going to say that.
Yeah.
What is it? Battlestar Galactica, all for one for all?
Yeah.
Sorry, yes, I am a BSG
Is that the
fan.
bug? Is that the Bugs movie? That's Starship Troopers.
That's Starship Troopers. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, different one. Totally
one.
different.
Totally different. Okay.
Great movie. That's one we should watch on one of our movie nights.
That'd be a good one.
That'd be a
yeah.
funny one.
Yeah, we just watched Red Dawn the other day.
Oh, classic?
Yeah, the classic.
Or,
Red Dawn.
okay,
Yeah,
you got to watch classic. Yeah.
Dude,
Oh my gosh, I
I
love
was
it.
dying watching that. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, the acting's so funny.
Oh,
I
yeah.
love it. I want that truck too, by the way.
Oh,
I call
yeah.
dibs on it.
All right.
I've seen a couple of them driving around this week.
Nice.
I know everybody's got their new car, their old classics coming out.
We're
The
putting-
weather's nice.
I know,
Everybody's
gosh.
getting the
One day.
motorcycles are out. Yep, we're almost there.
Yeah.
It's that acting's important. You know, the guys shooting machine guns like shooting it from their hip. You're just like,
So we were out looking at speaking of machine guns, we were out looking at a property the other day, and I'm like, there was someone shooting on some other property nearby, not too close, but you could hear it, you know, and you're just like, oh, okay, you know, and it's. I was thinking to myself, how do you explain that to someone who's not around firearms, right?
Right.
They're like, oh, how do you know they weren't just like, you know, the whole semi-auto versus auto type thing? And I like words matter, right? And so you don't call a automatic, you know, semi-auto an automatic, right?
yeah,
And so, you know, that isn't like tick, 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 right? It's
no
like
way.
you pull it and you go. I mean,
it's go-
especially when you shot one, you know,
Yeah.
you're like,
Oh, yeah.
and you
You
just
know the sound.
yeah.
a
You
good
know the sound. And you know the sound, but you also know the movement, right? Lean into it. Lean into
Uh-huh.
it.
Oh, yeah.
Don't go back. Don't lean back.
Gosh, I want to. I miss shooting the 240, dude. That was my favorite gun in the military.
that was a good one, man.
It's a fun gun. It's way better. And everybody's like, "Oh, the 50 cal." My brother, 50 cal is actually really lame. It's
is.
a really lame gun. It's
Yeah.
not fun. The 240
big,
though, it's 7.62 by
Just
51.
Goes.
Oh, it's butter.
I will say the 50 cal on the Humvee is fun because the enjoyable part is when you feel the Humvee getting rocked back from the when you just and you feel
I've
the
heard that,
Humvee-
yeah.
you feel the Humvee
Oh,
pull
damn.
back. That you're like, oh, this thing's got some snort.
That's crazy.
The Bradleys with the what is that? I think it's 60 millimeter bush.
I think it's a 102, ain't it?
The bush gun.
Yeah.
I'm way off.
I
It's
don't
been
know.
so long.
I'm not a Bradley guy.
Those are freaking sweet, man.
Really?
The chain guns.
Yeah.
It's a Bushmaster chain gun. I can't remember what caliber that is. Somebody will correct me in the comments, but those are cool.
Sadly, yeah. I went straight into civilian law enforcement like at 18, right? I got hired on as a cadet for the Oregon State Police, and I didn't go the military route. But I tell you what, we've trained in a lot of areas with like military bases and stuff like that. And so that's when you get play with the cool toys.
Heck
Yeah,
yeah.
that's fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're kind of like, hey guys, what are you doing? All right. So I spent 20 plus years as a range master. So I got to kind of interface with some of those guys. So that's always fun.
How many years have you been in again? Is that 30?
So yeah, I started at 18, and so I worked seasonal positions while I went to college,
Yeah,
and
sure.
then got hired on. So, but I started June of '93, so 33 years ago.
It's awesome.
Yeah, got hired on in '97, so coming up on whatever that is, 29 years.
Yeah.
solid.
Man,
Yeah,
Dang.
good for you.
yeah.
You're almost there, yeah.
Man, I'm there.
Yeah.
Now, if I could just convince the wife of it.
Yeah.
So, I think we got enough. But she's like, no, we just need a little bit more each month. And I'm like,
One more year.
one more year. Yeah. Right. Yeah, that's
year.
what it is.
Yeah.
It's always one more year.
It was the guys at the PD and stuff. Yeah, one more year. Like, crunch the numbers. I'm gonna do one more year.
One more year.
And they said that for 3 more years.
Yeah.
It is, though. I mean, when you get to that point, you really look at it and you're like, if it was just $20,
Yeah.
I'm out. I'm
Yeah.
done, right? But when you're like, a couple $100 a month, and in today's economy,
Right.
and that's the other thing. You start looking at insurance, you start looking at all that stuff with retirement. It all factors in, and it all makes, I don't want to work when I'm done.
No, not at all.
No,
I want to do my thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, you got some pretty cool things in the works, man.
I do. Yeah.
Yeah, you
I
got
do.
some sweet things in the works. So.
I have some YouTube aspirations, right?
Yeah.
I've got a channel.
Yeah, tell us about that,
Well,
if you're willing to.
I'll do everything except the name of the channel,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
Because I'm not quite there yet. So one of the things that I learned about YouTube is that, if you start watching these folks and they're like, how do you grow? I mean, there's people that are like, they literally, their whole job is growing your YouTube channel. So Danielle and I, we're looking at what do we want to do when we're done, right? She's going to be done too. Because we want to spend our time together, right? So she's not eligible to retire, but if she's working and I'm at home, right, that's going to be boring. I don't want to do that. So we're going to spend our entire time together. We're going to travel. We're going to hunt, trap, fish, do all those things together. Part of what we want to do is also build a house. We don't want a house that's built, right? We want either a fixer-upper or something that we can do that manual labor, right? That blood, sweat, equity, right, that goes into it. But also film that. There's some great folks out there. There's some in Idaho and Alaska and elsewhere that have done this and have done very well. And it's like, well, if you want to retire, you don't want to work. Well, what do you want to do, right? Well, it's great to retire, but you need money to pay for that insurance, right? You need this or that. So we're looking at just, doing enough of YouTube that we can pay for health insurance, which goes up every year. And it maybe put out some really neat content, show people that you can do this, you can be done and be done. You don't go out to your second job, right? A lot of cops, they retire. Oh, I'm going to go work security for a timber company.
Or the hospital.
Or the hospital or the VA.
Be a bailiff. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I don't want to do that, right? I'm done dealing with people, right? I want to be done. I just want to do my thing.
Yep.
And so to be able to do that and show people that you can go out there and you can just do your own thing, you can create your own thing, is what we're looking at doing. Definitely some inspiration out there on YouTube that they've done it. I think it can be replicated just a little bit different, right?
Definitely. Put your own spin on it.
Yeah. And so I've got 9 videos out there right now, not a lot, right? But I'm letting it grow organically so that the crowd that's interested in it is going to click on it and they're going to watch it.
Yeah.
They say what you don't do when you want to grow that channel is you don't tell your friends and you don't tell your work partners, your coworkers, and you don't tell family. Because they'll all go and they're like, oh, yeah, well, they told us about this. And so they only watched like a few minutes of it and then it's gone, right? And to get the algorithm, you need people to watch all the way through and be diligent enough to say, you know what, I like that video. Just like this video. Like and subscribe.
Thanks,
well
Ryan.
done. Thank you.
Well done.
Absolutely, because that grows your channel. And if you want to see more content from these folks and you want to see that get out to more people, that's how you do that, right? Yeah. You have to get that engagement, but it's got to grow organically with the people who are willing to engage in that content. And so if I say throughout my channel name here and then a whole bunch of people who are, I like to use this example because it's kind of funny. If they're think their time on YouTube is spent with their kids watching Barbie or Polly Pockets or something like that, and then they go and they watch your channel, it throws off the algorithm. It really does. You have to be in that groove until you're so big it doesn't fail, right? You always have that core audience that comes back, and then your channel can thrive on that. So So anyways, just
That makes sense.
what
That
I've
makes
learned trying to
Yeah.
get into this field, right? You know, and I move around too much for a podcast, so I'm trying to keep it here.
This is perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really excited for you. I think that's going to be an amazing channel, and you guys are going to do exceptionally well.
Yeah, I think so. It's going to be just basically, it's going to be the opposite of this petition, right? It's going to be hunting. It's going to be trapping. It's going to be fishing. My wife loves to hunt. She loves to fish. I do the trapping. And we love to be self-sufficient. So, right, we're doing sourdough. We just got a freeze dryer, and we've been freeze drying
So
everything.
cool.
And it's not necessarily right for like long term, like, oh, hey, you know, this is like because we want to live remote, away from people and everything. It's because we want to make less trips to town.
Sure. Yeah.
Right? We don't want to go to town, which is 2 hours to get to town to the store.
Yeah.
Right? We don't want to do that 4 times a month.
Right.
We want to do it once, come back, freeze dry that, and then use it over the month and save that money.
Sure.
Man, and then being an outdoorsman, making your own freeze-dried meals.
Seriously.
I mean,
Absolutely. We were so there's some really cool stores here we've never been in. There's one up in Sandpoint, North
40?
40. Yeah, went in there and then had all this selection. So I'm like, take pictures of this, right?
Yeah.
So that we can see what it is. So we have ideas
Yeah.
for meals.
Yeah.
They're
That-
all, what, $10, $7,
Right.
$15, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Each one, and be able to do that yourself. And then, you know, we've got like these little silicone trays and everything, so you can get a meal in each one.
Yeah.
With 5 trays of those, and so you're talking, you've got your entire hunt done with one setting of.
yeah.
Right.
And you're making like your homemade meals.
Yeah.
That
I'm
just
hungry. I'm thinking about all the meals. I just saw the coolest thing that you can do with freeze dryer, and I don't mean to cut you off, Austin.
You're good.
People freeze drying sauces.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sauces.
Yeah. Yep.
That is brilliant.
Yeah.
I'm like, and you can cut it like a pizza and then put a little thing and then
Yeah.
bring it in the backcountry, throw it in your
Yeah.
jet boil, and you're good. I'm like, that is
Now you got
brilliant.
sauce.
Brilliant.
What do you think? You know, the ramen,
That's
Oh, yeah.
the packets that are in the ramen.
Yeah.
that's what it is.
Just freeze-dried broth, right?
Exactly.
Oh,
Yeah.
man,
You just
I didn't
freeze
know
dry your
that.
broth, and then you've got it all set. So we just got done doing, future content. This would be a future video, but we just got done doing 360 eggs.
Wow.
Yes. Well, so we have 19 chickens, right?
Oh, that's-
18 hens and one boy watching out for all of them.
Yeah.
All right. And he does. He's great, man. Birds come around and he gathers them up. He's like, hey, there's something going on. And he gets them
Sure.
kind of, yeah, it's great.
It's badass.
But we average about a dozen eggs a day. And so at some point when we move, we're not going to have these chickens, right? We're not going to try to, the clamp it. So we're not throwing them on top and driving across the country. We're just not going to do that, right?
Chicken strap
I mean-
to the roof in a cage.
Right? Yeah,
That'd be
yeah.
great.
I don't have any grandmothers left, so there's nothing. There's no one who can be in the rocker. So we're not
That's
going to bring the
funny.
chickens either. So
Great reference.
I know, yeah. You like that. So we're gonna basically we have these stored in 12 quart jars, and they can be stored in there for 25 years. So when we move, as we're building up this homestead that we're looking at doing, we don't have to get those chickens right away. We don't have to start that process, which chickens do take time, right? They are time consuming effort. We will have our eggs already there.
Are you like scrambling them and then putting them in there and then?
Yeah,
Man,
just
cool.
yeah. Actually, Danielle was scrambling by hand, and I'm like, put them in the mixer and do
Yeah.
it that way. And she's like, actually, it's just easier to do it by hand. So yeah,
Fair.
yeah. The
Man.
other day, she was like, her hands were like blistered because she cracked so many
So
eggs
many
and
eggs.
washed them, and then like was mixing them, and she's just like, oh, my hands hurt.
That's work.
Man.
Sounds like a lot of work. Well, in contrary to like if you if you've had bad freeze dried eggs, like we've had them in the military before.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
That are just
some
awful.
hotel stays.
Yeah. Yep, hotels. Yeah, you're like, it's still in the shape of the bag. They just warped it out. Like I can see the corner of the bag.
Yeah,
You're like,
yeah.
ew. But I saw a video where this family was doing that freeze dried eggs, and they made a fresh scrambled eggs, and then they did their freeze dried ones and did
Do a
like
blind taste
yeah.
test, yeah.
Couldn't taste the difference.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Couldn't- nope.
That's fascinating.
They're like-
Well, it's all in how you make it, right?
Sure.
And you just don't just throw it out there and just mix it up and just call it good. You got to season it. You got to add your milk to it to make it a little bit more creamy, stuff like that. Put some cheese on it, all of that stuff. Yeah, we had eggs this morning, so
You make me want. I want to get a freeze dried. Dude. I think we'd get a lot of use out of it.
Yeah, I think we would.
So that's what we're looking at doing. We're looking at just that homesteading lifestyle. It's the things that we already do. Danielle will spend like her weekend cooking us meals and then freezing them all, and then we have lunches for a month, and we just grab a frozen lunch out of the freezer. When I'm driving around at work all day, I've got one of those little plug-in lunchbox heaters.
Oh, the warmers.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Oh yeah, and in 2 hours, I've got a hot meal for lunch.
That's awesome.
And so just saving money, stuff like that. It's
I
just
wish I would have done that when I was working.
Yeah, and I also wish jet boils were around when I was in the military.
Yeah.
I would have never had an MRE.
No.
No. I got my peak meals and my jet boil. I'm good to go.
I would absolutely take a peak meals instead of MREs.
All day.
They're awful, dude.
Dude,
Ugh.
they're brutal, bro.
Hey, but you got to have one every now and then just to remind yourself.
Oh man, what was I doing? I think I was going through some bins in my garage,
Yeah.
and I found a bin that I had some stockpiled MREs, and I'm like, why do I still have these?
Bro, they're literally one molecule away from plastic.
Yeah. And so
Hands down.
I'm going through them, and I got the kids with me, and I'm like, oh, this is what I used to eat a lot when I was, at drill or whatever. And I didn't eat any MREs when I was overseas.
Really?
Dude,
You were aviation.
I was aviation, dude. I was a flight. We had our own compound.
You got to see women.
Yeah.
I was just around dudes for 10 months.
Yeah.
Smelly dudes.
MREs were a thing up there for you guys?
For a bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we did have a cook. His name was Cookie. Great guy. He got flown in, and we would have Blackhawks come in and bring us food from time to time.
Oh.
But there's times that they couldn't come in because the weather was really bad for a while, so we'd eat our MREs.
Did they bring the chuck wagon?
The chuck
Yeah.
wagon?
Chuck
No?
wagon up
No.
there.
Oh, man.
Some of the
That's
guys.
too bad.
Yeah.
So I was going through these MREs, and I was kind of showing some of the kids the ones that were my favorites when I was eating them, and freaking opened them up, like let them play around with it, and I was like, all right, try it. I gave them a cracker. Oh god.
Oh, they were like, that's so
man.
gross.
They're like, what?
What?
I'm like, no, you take okay, here, try the wheat snack bread,
Oh, dude.
and you put some cheese on it.
I like the wheat
Fake
snack
cheese.
bread.
Yeah.
Fake cheese.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's good. And then I tried it, and I was like,
It's all trans fat.
God, I
dude.
used to devour.
The Sloppy Joe was my favorite MRE.
Yeah.
It was the best,
I was
in my
like,
opinion.
and
And the brownie. Oh my god, did you ever the brownie?
For me, it was the chili mac.
Oh, chili mac.
The
is
chili
bomb
mac,
too,
and then
bro.
you put the cheese packet in
Yeah.
with the heating element to get the
Yeah.
warm cheese, and then you put the cheese in with the chili mac.
You make
So-
some gourmet
Yeah, you do.
meals after
You
a while.
figure
You
ways
can
to
figure
church it up.
To bring this around, if you live in Oregon in maybe 6 years or so, that might be all you're eating
That's
Yeah,
true.
it's true.
is MREs.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, you'd be harming animals.
Right.
That's true.
Yeah, and the only thing they harm making MREs is plastic.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's all good.
It's all good.
It's all good.
And go down to your
Everything's
food distribution center.
You get your MREs.
Get your gas rations. You can
Yeah.
get your
Yep.
MREs. You can.
Well, so back to the bill. If this comes to and gains the traction it needs, so the next step, right, is it gets on the ballot.
Yes.
And then once it's on the ballot, can it stay on the ballot the next year?
No.
Okay, so
It's
they have to
voted
do
on and done. And then if it doesn't pass and there's a small group of people that want to force their will upon people again, then they try again, which
Gotcha.
they probably would.
Right.
There's always, sadly, people out there that are trying to force their way rather than. We make a joke about it, right? Every time we come to Idaho. In fact, the first time that Danielle and I came to Idaho, we weren't even married. We were just dating. And I drove across the border from Ontario, Oregon. She's like, and then she's looking at me like, what are you doing? I'm like, you smell that? She goes, no. I'm like, that's the smell of freedom. It's freedom.
Nice.
And so it's a joke every time we come into Idaho. I'm like, smell that. She goes, what? It smells like freedom, right? And I'm like, yeah,
does.
and then so then we went to Montana, and I kind of threw a different twist on it, but I'll save that for another time. So
yeah,
I record. I like I start the camera rolling, right, hands free, put it on the dash, and just start it recording. I'm like, hey, smell that? She's like, you're recording, aren't you? I'm like, yeah. Come on, don't ruin it for me.
I gotta do it again.
Yeah.
That's funny. Content creation, man.
Yeah.
So, whether I don't think this will pass. I think we have enough smart people in the state of Oregon. There's a lot of great people in Oregon, right?
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. There's great people, especially in Eastern Oregon. No, there are great people everywhere, right? My parents are in Western Oregon. I can't hold them at fault. But there's really good people there, and I don't see this passing this time.
Sure.
But as our society changes and as I don't know, we just have changed since I'm not going to use the C word, right? But things have changed, and the forcing of will upon people has become more common.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right.
It's going to keep happening too, unfortunately.
Yeah. And it's not like we're trying to get out of Oregon to come to greatest freedom in the world, right? We're all free.
Yeah.
But there are things that are not happening here that are happening in Oregon. Like beaver trapping just pretty much went away this year, starting January 1 of 2026
Really?
in Oregon. Yeah. Because they did it right, man. They're getting the playbook down. If they want to ban something, they know how to do it. You know how to do it. They went to the small forests first, right? And they got them all to join this small forest accord. Well, it's great. You're part of this membership, right? And you have all of these benefits, but one of the requirements is if you're part of this small forest accord, you cannot allow trapping on your lands. Okay, so they restrict trapping that way. But you were talking about, well, imagine all of your private timber ground in Idaho. Okay, so when I'm looking at Onyx, a lot of them I'm looking at there are Potlatch, Stimson, all the old Weyerhaeuser stuff, pretty much.
Yeah,
right,
For sure.
So it's a majority of the land that is out there that people in this state are going to use to hunt and trap, do whatever that they're allowed to do on those lands. So they took that away in Oregon. Next, they took the authority for beaver trapping away from the scientists, the biologists with the state of Oregon, and they put it in the hands of the Department of Environmental Quality, the water quality people. All right. So they made a rule basically that if a waterway is impaired, you cannot trap on that for beaver. You can't trap on that waterway on any of the land that's adjacent to public, or any of the water, any of the water that's adjacent to public land. So that leaves all the private land, right?
Yeah.
Except most of the private land that you have out there, either you can't trap on it because it's someone's private property.
Right.
You have to have permission, and they don't want people on their property.
Yep.
Or they do, and that's great. And the guys who do well do that. Or it's the private forests who are part of the private forest accord, and they've already banned the trapping there.
Oh, wow. So they just kind of did their due diligence and kind of snuck it in on the
One piece at a time
Sure.
to make it work. So now you have whole streams that you can't trap beaver on.
Dang.
And
those suckers are destructive.
They're great. They are great at what they do.
Yeah.
But they're also destructive at what they do, and there's a place and a time for all of them.
Definitely.
And there's a number for all of them, right? We're not trapping them to extinction. We're not in the 17 and 1600s when we trapped them. And that's how our states were built, by the way. What's on the Oregon flag? It's the only state that has two sides to a flag. One side's a beaver, the other side's a seal.
I had no idea.
I did not know that.
Huh. That's cool. There's a beaver on it. Beavers
This
are cool.
the Oregon Territory was built on trappers coming here.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Right?
Yep.
Yep. Good or bad.
Yep. Good or
That
bad.
is the history. It doesn't matter.
Right.
That's what happened, and we're here now.
Yep.
And we live with it and we deal with it and where we're at today. So what built the state of Oregon has pretty much been destroyed. Like, you can no longer do that. And I mean, I live in an area where we have some of the highest concentrations and densities of beaver that there are in stream systems, even better than on the coast. Wow. But because at some point in the past, DEQ went in there and said, this water is impaired. For any reason, right? That spring that starts that water could come through an arsenic funnel, right? I mean, it could come through something down in the crust of the earth that has nothing to do with us. Mm-hmm. We didn't do it. Mm-hmm. We didn't put a mine there. We didn't do any of that stuff. It just happened to go through something that made it whatever, like not quality stream. But the beavers are going to fix it, except they haven't in all this time. So if we have some of the best beaver habitat and the most beaver per square mile in an area, and yet they're not fixing the problem, maybe beavers aren't always the answer, right? Sure. Mm-hmm. But we that's science.
Yeah.
And we have to ignore that because they've made these rules. They being the folks who have orchestrated this, right? I'm talking about a very specific set of people who orchestrated this to happen. Mm-hmm. So now we can't trap beaver in those areas, even though they are literally beaver upon beaver upon beaver, and you're having these issues of sickness and disease, and there's too many for that system.
They just can't sustain themselves because
they can't.
There's no management.
Yeah. And there's zero management to it anymore. As of January 1 this year, so it's a pretty brand new thing.
Maybe they should put birth control in the water for the beavers.
Don't worry, it's already in the water.
Maybe it maybe it counteracts poor water quality too. You do just like a whole mixture thing.
Yeah, do it all.
Yeah,
throw whatever in there.
It fixes everything.
Just throw chemicals at everything.
Yeah, why not?
It'll work. And
speaking of chemicals, right? Get on another kick, right? No, I can go down rabbit holes, but right now there's like a huge, like fur is insane right now, right? Bobcat prices are through the roof.
I did just see that actually.
Great on some levels,
yeah.
Not good on other levels where it brings people's attention and ire and all this. Oh, you're making money, blah, blah, blah. But you're talking about a renewable resource, beaver, all your furs, bobcat, coyote, right? Sure. It's a renewable resource. I'm not forcing you to wear furs. So that's the difference. I'm just saying, give us the option, right? Give us us being the people who want to do this, give us that option to be able to wear furs or provide furs where they need to go to the people who want them. Don't force me to wear an oil byproduct. And I could name a whole lot of the sporting brands that are out there, and I don't want to, right? I want to bring down on some of this stuff. But a lot of the stuff, start reading the label, start digging into where that coat came from. Is that coat an oil byproduct? Or is it something that actually was renewable? And start thinking about, how do you feel about oil? There's a lot of people who feel that oil is the enemy, right? Mm-hmm. Gas and oil, everything should be electric. That's fine. That's fine. Give us the option. Don't force it on us. But
for a long time, they believed oil was not a renewable resource.
And there's studies now showing that it could be.
It could be.
I think it's the blood of the earth, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I really do.
These pockets are these oil deposits, and these pockets are suddenly filled up again after they've completely drained them. Now there's more oil in it.
Yeah.
It fossilizes easy down there. Mm-hmm. That heat and pressure just makes everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dig into that though on your own, right?
Wasn't there a theory at one point that oil was made from dinosaur bones?
Who knows, man? All I know is they don't even know what the Earth looks like because they've only dug 6.8 miles down. They don't know what the center of the Earth looks like. That's all theory.
It's all guesses based on
guesses. Yeah, they don't know what it looks like. Yeah, it's a lot, man.
There's a long way. Actually,
go so many rabbit holes right now, but I'm not.
I was just thinking about like looking down the road a mile ahead. And you're like, oh, that's a ways. 6 miles. I mean, 6 miles is still a long ways, but when you look at it on a map, but
How many miles?
How much further?
I'm trying to remember my science, but how many miles? Is it 24,000 miles that the Earth is?
Earth is supposedly.
Supposedly.
Is that it? I'm probably way off.
No,
on
you're
that
right.
number.
You're about right. Supposedly.
Yeah, so it's a lot to get down to the
Supposedly it's
center.
Right? Yeah.
I mean, I've watched a movie or two about it, and I didn't see any oil,
Yeah.
so I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know, man.
Well, just to caveat, touch on this before we wrap things up.
Yeah.
What drew you guys up this way? You know, you're looking either Idaho or Montana. What is it about this area that just is drawing you up here?
Well, I hate to say this, but to start, it was Alaska, not Idaho.
Well, fair enough.
But
Alaska's a friggin' awesome place.
it is. Yeah, I would love to live there. We actually made 2 trips about 2 years ago. In fact, yeah, it was spring break, so it was 2 years ago this week, right? Because this is spring break for Oregon at least. And so we flew up there and we started checking some places out, right? And there's some great folks that are doing some great stuff on YouTube up there. So we started looking in Willow, Alaska. There is a pretty famous YouTube kind of group, Simple Type Living, and I don't want to say their name, but you probably figure it out. They were in that area, and so we went there, and we're like, all right, this is great, but how many podcasts or video podcasts, really, vlogs, whatever you call it, YouTube channels can you have right in an area? And we don't, we're trying not to step on someone's toes, doing kind of the same type of thing, right? So we went up there, we went all the way down the Kenai. I hadn't been to Kenai Peninsula since I was 18. The only time I'd been up there before. No, I was 16. So it had been quite a while. And so we went all the way down there. We looked at all that stuff, and then we went all the way up almost to Denali. We went way out to the east, almost towards Glen Ferry. No, that's Idaho. Glen Allen, Alaska, and we checked out a lot of areas. We really liked that Willow area, but it's like, there's these other people there. So we came back, we started talking to some folks who came from Alaska that live in our area. So it's kind of interesting, but you have North Pole, right? Yep. Alaska. Okay. All the, that's where all the Christmas streets and everything's Christmas themed, not everything, right? But a lot of things.
Yeah.
We lived right near Christmas Valley, Oregon, and all the streets are, tinsel and Christmas tree. And yeah. So it's kind of like, hey, we're going to move from like the Christmas Valley area to the North Pole, right? Instead, just move from one area where Santa is to the other. But so we started talking to these folks that lived there in Christmas Valley, and they were from Alaska, and they're like, hey, and I'm not going to say the name because I don't want to out these people where they're at, but this other area. So we started looking at it in Alaska. It's in the interior. Well, these folks that were doing this YouTube channel in Willow moved in the meantime to that town. And then we're like, crud, right? We don't really necessarily want to be like next door neighbors doing like competing things on YouTube. Yeah. So we're like, well, that stinks. And so we started looking at everything and all the different areas, trying to figure out where can we be, where we can kind of spread this out and still have fun, right? And be in Alaska, and be able to do all the Alaska things, hunting and the fishing and the travel and just the scenery. It's so amazing up there. And then this winter hit, and it was -50 for most of the interior, almost all winter.
No,
Wow.
thank you.
And I'm like, okay, let's go. I'm ready.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, please send me.
Hockey. You could skate on a lot of lakes.
Yeah, send me.
Yeah, everything's frozen.
And so, but my wife said, no.
Yeah, no, absolutely not.
She's like, I don't want to be stuck in the house for 6 months, right? It's dark and it's cold, and I'm not going to be able to go outside and run and do all that stuff, right? And so that's when we started transitioning to, okay, where can we go that is less taxes than Oregon? And that's a big thing.
Yeah.
Right. I've charted everything out on paper. How much, if we live with this retirement, are we going to pay in Oregon? How much are we going to pay in Alaska? Well, I did Alaska too, and it was a lot cheaper. Idaho. How much in Wyoming? How much in Montana?
And then we just started looking at that and looking at all those factors and where can we get the biggest bang for our buck, right? Where can we live comfortably and pay less to the man, right? The government.
Absolutely.
And so that's where we started looking at that. We had looked in southern Idaho. We'd done a big tour through Wyoming, checked out a bunch of areas there. And then I'm like, well, what about, I know there's a big YouTube channel that's up here, but let's go look at North Idaho. And that's where we came up here and we're like, all right, this is the scenery that we want, right? We live next to like a huge mountain, right? It goes up for half a mile behind us. So 2,500 feet, just straight up, just like that. And so that's awesome. But everywhere else, we live in the Great Basin, right? We live in the Great Desert Basin. And so it's all desert. We don't want to live in desert. We want to be in the mountains. We want to be in trees. And so that's why this area really intrigued us, and we really enjoyed that. And so that's when we started looking up here. Cool. So western Montana and northern Idaho, and really we're trying to find something.
Yeah.
But the other hard part is, so, it's everything. But it's what we want to do, right? It's not what someone else is going to force us to do. It's what we want to do.
Yeah.
Even our parents, right? Our parents may have opinions, but we're going to do what we want to do, right? It's our life.
Right.
And so we looked at all those things, but then we started looking at CWD distribution. And we're like, oh, man. There's a whole segment of northern Idaho that's mandatory check-in for CWD.
Yeah, I know about that this year. It's lame.
So Onyx now has and I don't mean to make this an Onyx channel, but I use Onyx like exclusively at work and everything, man.
Same.
I mean, it is like
Great tool.
it is a great tool to use. They now have a CWD layer.
Oh, nice. So
On
you
there.
can see if you're going to be hunting.
There's a
in
lot
the
of
zone.
red. There's a lot of red out there. It's now into Washington. The entire border with Idaho now is in that. There's a group that studies CWD and its most likely trajectory and where it's most likely at. All of Wyoming is covered. Large portions of like around Libby, that whole area in there of Montana, that's all, all that. I had no idea. So that's good research too. So, we're looking at all that stuff as well as, the environment. We want to be around some snow, not too much, trees, mountains, stuff like that. And away, right? I've had to deal with people for 33 years. Well, all 52 years of my life, but 33 years where it's just been a lot of times adversarial, right?
Yeah.
There's some great people out there, but there's just some really not great people out there. We don't want to see our neighbors. So where we're at, unfortunately, we're just, we've gotten used to it. We live on 1,100 acres. Our nearest neighbor is a mile to the north, 2 miles to the south. We can see about 5 miles across the desert. There's a neighbor there. That's the only one we can really see. And so we like that, right?
Yeah.
But we're going to have to put some trees around us to get that up here.
For sure. Yeah.
And that's, and so that's kind of the hard part, trying to find that balance where we can just be us.
Yeah.
And not just the world can go do their things. Don't force your will upon us. Just let us live our lives reasonably, non-criminally.
Do
That's
the things
the culture
I want to
here,
do.
man. That
and
is the
not
culture here.
Be in trouble for it.
Yeah, and it really is.
It's
It
a
is that
here.
culture.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So that's what we're looking for. That's what brought us up here, and we're really we're enjoying it.
Yeah, that was a great answer, man. I appreciate
It's-
that. Good response.
The hardest, honestly, the hardest part about up here is the price.
It is.
You got to pay to live here, man.
Yeah.
that's
You really
the trouble.
do, yeah.
You
The
do.
sticker price is high, but thankfully on the back end, that's where you end up kind of saving some coin. It's just be like you said, the taxes and just the cost of living is generally just a little lower, and so sticker prices are higher.
It's a bit of a sticker shock. I mean, even from Alaska, we're like, oh wow, Alaska prices are high.
Yeah.
But it's the whole West Coast.
It is.
Everything. Yeah.
We've looked at stuff like in Maine, and you're like, oh, okay, 120 acres with a 400 square foot, which we don't want. We want something small. It's easy to clean. It's just us, right? And the animals, right? But you could buy stuff out there for $120,000.
Yeah, the problem with the East Coast though is 70% of America's population is on the East Coast.
I know, yeah.
Which is crazy to believe, but it is.
Yeah,
yeah.
And so that was, because we actually traveled all the way to Tennessee, right?
That
Pretty
was
much
still a big one.
It's a great destination for folks, right? There are a lot of people going there, but then we started looking at the number of people per 1,000.
Oh yeah, it's insane. Idaho is the safest state in the lower in America.
Yep.
Safest state, number one.
Yeah,
Idaho.
We took number 1.
Yep. New Hampshire, number 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
Just crazy.
Safest state.
That is, yeah.
And I understand. I know why it's the safest state.
And they're both kind of shaped the same.
Oh yeah.
It's similar.
Maybe we just need to break up these other states into Idaho-shaped.
Get them on board.
Yeah. No, I appreciate this, Ryan. Seriously.
Yeah. Appreciate
Great
coming
having
in.
you
And
on.
Yeah. A lot of good info here.
Looking forward.
I try to keep it to the facts, and everything else is my opinion.
Yeah.
So
we
all have opinions.
If you live in Oregon, and this thing comes through on the ballot, make sure you make an educational choice, and don't let people force their will on you. Be informed. Especially if you're in Oregon, be informed on what's coming your way when it comes to voting. So
Absolutely.
look into this.
Think about what I try to do is I try not to, I really just, it bothers me because we become a narcissist society. And I see it every day at work. I want to do this, so I'm going to do this. I don't care what the law is.
Yeah.
And man, I push back. I really push back against that. Think about your neighbor. Think about that other person more than yourself.
Yeah.
Right? Try not to force your will upon your neighbor. Stay in your lane.
Love it.
And enjoy it in your lane.
Exactly. Yeah.
Just get out of the left lane
be
if you're
thankful.
driving slow.
Yes.
Ain't that the truth?
Awesome. Well, hey,
Yeah.
we appreciate it a ton, Ryan. It was
Yeah.
great talking to you, and hopefully some people got some information out of this about what's going on in Oregon and some legislation that they're trying to pass on everybody. So
Yeah, and go to, get involved. Go to your groups, whether it's Oregon Hunters Association, Mule Deer, Rocky Mountain Elk, Oregon Trappers. There's a lot more out there. I know I'm just covering a few of them. And don't hesitate. If you live in Idaho, right, it doesn't mean you can't be part of that organization that's going to fight this. If you think, hey, there's something going on, these organizations are doing that. Support that organization. You can go and you can support them with memberships. You don't have to be a resident of Oregon if you think, hey, this is kind of wrong. Because, see, this is how easy it is for a lot of these groups. I've kind of been reading up on some of how they make their money, right? Follow the money.
Always.
It's easy for them to say, pull on someone's heartstring and say, donate now. And there's a whole lot of people who just like, oh, okay, sounds good. And they don't look into the facts and they don't look into what is going on.
yeah.
So it's real easy for them to make a lot of money, millions and millions of dollars without even hardly lifting a finger. Right. And it's really hard for the hunting and angling community to make money to fight this.
Yeah.
So if you have the opportunity, reach out to some of these groups and just become part of one for a year.
Yeah.
And, and
Absolutely.
help them out to help your fellow hunters and anglers out in another state.
Yeah.
I
Get
think
involved.
that would help.
We all got to help each other out, even if you're in a different state, for sure.
And it all takes money.
Yeah. Because
You know.
what do you think? If you're in Idaho and they ban hunting in Oregon, where do you think they're coming?
What happens in Washington happens in Alaska, happens in Oregon. And when they get that block down, where does it move? It moves inland.
Yep. So, yeah, well said. Get involved. Don't just stand by.
Absolutely.
Well, awesome.
Appreciate it, guys.
Yeah,
Yeah,
appreciate it.
Thank you very
Ryan.
much.
Thank you
Yeah.
very much.
Awesome.
Yeah. Till next time.